Hello guys, and welcome to So Fantastic with Tiwa Avanti, and today's video is the concluding part of the previous one. In the previous video I showed you how I drafted the pattern for the off-shoulder mermaid dress, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how I transferred those pattern pieces to fabric, how I stitched everything together, and also you'll be seeing how the whole outfit came together and how it was rocked. So let's get right into it. Okay, so I traced the front skirt pattern on fold, so now I'm laying that on the fabric straight. I didn't fold the fabric into two because I already have a full front skirt pattern. Now I started by adding 12.5 inches to the hem of one side of the skirt. You can add more or less if you want. It depends on how full you want the skirt to be, but looking at the one in the picture, the flare isn't that full, so I added just 12.5 inches. Okay, so after adding the flare, then I added all of my seam allowances. Then I connected from the 12.5 I marked at the hem to my breaking point. So remember that the breaking point is 4 inches above the knee, so I connected from there to the 12.5 cm, the 12.5 inches I added for the flare. Now, to ensure that one side is not longer than the other, I measured the length from the breaking point to the hem on the pattern. So after measuring that, what I have, I measured it on the flare line, and then with my curved ruler I blended back into the hem. Okay, so this will ensure that the flare is not pointy at the hem. Okay, for the back, I also extended the flare out by 12.5 inches, and the back I cut on fold. I added all my allowances and I cut out the back piece for the skirt. When working with laces, it's better to cut out the underlining first, and then use that to cut the main fabric. Okay, so I've gone ahead to join the upper part, the bustier part off camera, and I've attached the cups, and also I have turned the neckline with the lining, and I have joined the upper part of the back to the skirt. And I didn't do hanging lining for this dress, so the lower part is going to be unlined. I'm going to finish off the sides. I'll weave the sides to make it neat. Here I'm just showing you the progress I have made so far, with the bustier and everything. Moving on, this is the front part of the skirt with the underlining, and since I won't be lining it like I said earlier, I'll be using the underlining to turn the raw edge of the main fabric. And so here I just placed the lining over the lace, and I joined with 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so after sewing, I top stitched the allowance and also ironed it down. Next, I went ahead to sew the upper part and the skirt part together. So here I already pinned it together, and I'm sewing with 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now the next thing I did, with all the upper parts joined to the lower part for the dress, the next thing I did was to install an invisible zipper on the skirt, and I'll be using my invisible zipper presser foot as usual. So for in case you don't know how to install zips, I have a detailed tutorial on how to do this. Okay, so I am going to have that video linked in the description box and also up here, so that you can check it out if you're interested. Thank you. Okay, so the zip looks good and it curves around the butt illusion like really nicely. So now I stitched up the zip allowance all the way to the hem to finish up this part of the skirt. Next, I pinned the front and the back together because it's time to sew up the sides. So I marked out my seam allowance and I joined. So with the main body of the dress done, it's time to add all the extra details on the style. So remember that the style has a multi-layered flounce on one side, and then there's a floor length draping also on that side. So I thought to attach the flounce at the waist, since the slit on this one is not going to be as high as the one in the picture, and it looked as if the flounce was attached right above the slit for the main style that we are recreating. But I on thinking about it, okay, so I measured first from the side to the first dart leg, for the smallest layer of the fold. But then I decided to just eyeball it and not place it right on the waist, because it looked too high and it was almost covering all the upper parts, so on that side. So I just decided to eyeball it and put it and make it go lower, than the waist. Okay, so for the flounce, because it's an asymmetric flounce that's going to be folded over and over, so I calculated my radius, and added that to the length. Okay, I used that to cut out a full circle, and I also cut a lining piece for it. So because this is an asymmetric circle, I slashed it open on one side, and then I reduced the length of one side to about 6 inches with allowance, and then I measured all round to up to about half of the circle. Okay, and note that I didn't measure just at 6 inches. I increased it as I went, from 6 to 6.5 to 7 to 8, until I reached the length of the midpoint. Then I blended all the points with my chalk, and I just cut into half of the circle, so that it's going to create that high low effect. For me, it's that simple. I remember that in the hand fan video I did something like this and I explained it a little bit more, so you can also check out that video. This is how to create the same way you create the multi-layered circle is how you create your high low asymmetric circle. It's just the same way, but if you want to work with a desired length, then you can you just determine all of that and cut out your circle. It's very simple. So then I went ahead to iron stay on the flounce or the circle to stiffen it. Okay, then I set that aside and I joined the sleeves, and I also draped the floor length piece. I think I cut the width to be about 15 inches. I just pleated it on the side, towards the back of the dress. So here I'm trying to determine how I want the fold of the multi-layered flounce to go. I didn't want it to be too wide, so then it will cover to the upper part. The body is too much, and I didn't want it to be too small too, so that it still looks like what we have in the original style. So I ended up with this fold, and I think it looks just nice, so I just left it this way. Now it's time to attach to the dress. So first I was trying to sew the flounce down by hand, but my needle won't go through all the layers, so I had to machine sew it. I was thinking my machine would not run over it before, but then I tried and it did, and it made things a lot easier for me. So if you're making something like this, you also need to tack the flounce down on the dress and also between the layers, so that it will stay in place. Most of the time when I need to work quickly, I usually just use this UHU gum to glue the appliques down at first before I sew by hand, so that I don't have to worry about pins and everything. So it helps me to work faster, and when working with laces, you can get away with sewing on top of the fabric. Lace is very forgiving. It hides everything, you know, that your thread won't be obvious, or you can just use an invisible thread to do this, you know. But I used the same color of thread and I just attached all over, you know, like this, and it came out really nice. So I finished sewing down all the parts, you know, that I needed to keep down, and when I finished, this is how it looked. The dress came together so well, and I'm not just going to tell you, I will show you in pictures and videos. Here's what it looks like. She really liked it. So I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I hope that along the line, showing you how I went about creating this dress, you learned something, you know, you picked something that will be useful for you when working on your own project. Please subscribe and like and comment, and also come back for more. And I promise you, I'm going to attend to all of the requests that you have made on this channel. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for stopping by as always, and for watching from the beginning to the end. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.